Alright, legends, welcome along to Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart, and we're getting into Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this episode. We're doing season 4, episode 11, entitled Doomed. We're all doomed! But at the end of the last episode, Buffy and Riley found out, respectively, who they were. And at the beginning of this episode, they're in Buffy's dorm room. They finally try to talk about it. And as much as Riley wants to tell Buffy who he really is, he can't. But Buffy is able to guess based on everything from the past several weeks that Riley is one of these commandos and whatnot. And she pretty much guesses, everything that she knows about Spike and whatnot. She's able to, grab hold of demons and whatnot. You do experiments on them and you turn some of them into harmless little puppies. So he's kind of blown away here that she knows as much as she knows. Really, Riley, he's amazed by her talents and abilities, but when she confesses she's the Slayer, he hasn't got a clue what the Slayer is. And at this point, an earthquake hits. And of course, the last earthquake Buffy experienced disturbed her because that was the one at the end of season 1 where the Master tried to open the Hellmouth. And so we cut over to Xander's house. He's cleaning up some damage that's happened after the earthquake. There's a pipe leaking in there. Spike is living with him, of course, at this point, with the chip on his head. He can't do any damage to anyone. Xander tells Spike that if he's going to live there, he'll have to earn his keep if he wants to be kept, more or less. And Spike gets angry when Xander throws a wrench at him and tells him to fix the leaking pipe. And he tries to hit Xander over the head with the wrench. While Xander's back is turned, of course, the pain in his head, and he's standing there in the background holding his head in pain, while Xander is still going on about how useless Spike is. So we're getting a good bit of comedy out of Spike in these episodes now. Great character. And class. Willow checks in with Buffy, tells her about an aftershock party that's taking place in one of the dorms that's lost their power. It's one of these places that people they'll have a party for the opening of an envelope, essentially. So Buffy tells Willow, go you on ahead to the party, I'll catch up with you. I want to go and see Giles. And Willow questions, was anything wrong? And Buffy's trying to play it off, no, nothing's wrong. But she, fearing that the world is going to come to an end because of this earthquake. But Giles dismisses her, telling her that earthquakes are fairly normal for South Carolina, not to be worrying about it. He changes the subject about tracking down the commandos, telling Buffy that based on the information, it seems that the bases below the university are close to it and the other students may be involved. Buffy gets uncomfortable with the topic and tries to discuss the earthquake more. He doesn't so much say it in the episode, but now that she knows that Riley is part of this commando group, there's a conflict of interests on her part now. But, she still has this thing about earthquake, prophecy, end of the world sort of deal. And the initiative facility, Riley, he asks one of the other commandos down there, Forrest, I believe his name is, what he knows about the Slayer. And he kind of jokes that Slayer's a metal band. Of course they are, pretty damn good too. Forrest, he reckons that the Slayer is just a myth that the monsters made up. Demons themselves are explained away as being simple animals as well at this point. He's not so much, this Forrest guy, he's not so much into, he fights demons, hunts them down, but as far as he's concerned, they're just animals, and the Slayer and everything is just a myth that the demons use to keep their offspring in check, more or less. At this point, the demon goes berserk, attacks Riley and Forrest. They manage to subdue it and wonder at the strange activity their demon captives have been exhibiting since the earthquake. And again, Forrest is just like, it's just the earthquake, it gets everybody crazy. So he's, again, he's one of these guys that's just, has a real explanation for everything in a non-real world kind of thing. So at the party, the blackout party, Willow sees Percy that she tutored back in high school, and he's with this girl, and this girl's got a problem with Willow talking to Percy, and pretty much breezes her off, and they head off to get a drink and whatnot. We cut over to this college student. He's mixing drinks alone in one of the dorm rooms, and he gets his throat slit by this massive demon. Later at the party, Willow overhears a conversation between Percy and this girl that he was with, where Percy calls Willow captain of the nerd squad. This girl's jealous, what the hell are you doing talking to our woman? You're supposed to be here with me, sort of a deal. And he's like, no, she's like, captain of the nerd squad, and I'd rather have my woman hot, sort of thing. So this puts her in a downer. Willow goes into one of the dorm rooms to lie down in a bed, and when the power comes back on, the lights come on in the room, and she finds herself next to the dead body of this guy that was mixing the drinks earlier. And there's a symbol carved into his chest of a pyramid with an eye in the centre. So we cut over to Xander's house once more, his basement. Xander finds Spike. Keep it now, a nice little bit of comedy here for Spike's part. Of course, Xander goes into the basement. Of course, Spike hasn't repaired any of the damage, and the place is in worse shape than what it was whenever he left. We don't see Spike, but he's like, don't turn around, all serious. Don't look at me. Don't turn around. And Xander slowly, of course, turns around to see what's happening, and there's Spike standing there wearing this Hawaiian shirt and short pants that belong to Xander. Looks completely the opposite of what he normally looks, and again, a lot of visual comedy with Spike, as well as just flat out opens his mouth and says something that'll fold you up like an accordion. He is a brilliant character, but he's completely humiliated wearing these clothes that belongs to Xander because he shrunk his own clothes in the wash. When Spike tries to get temperamental, Xander loses his temper and harshly tells Spike that no one is scared of him, and that he's not even worth having kicky. There's a new word for you. He's not even worth Buffy kicking his ass. And for extra measure, Xander's like, at this point, even I could give you a good ass kicking right now. So Willow's not the only one goes in a downer in this episode. Spike goes in one as well. Over at Riley's place, he's shooting baskets with Forrest, and he's brooding about Buffy in his bedroom when another one of the commandos, posing as a student, Graham, walks in and tells him about the murder that happened at the dorms. Riley orders the others to report to Professor Walsh while he checks the situation out itself, and we're just not going to suit up and head after this thing until we get the full story. Back over at Giles' apartment, Willow shows the gang the symbol was carved into the student's chest. Giles speaks up at this point and he says it's definitely the end of the world, and Buffy mentions that she knows the symbol from somewhere, but she can't remember where, so she goes to hunt down the demon, recognises the symbol in one of the crypts in the graveyard, and inside, this demon is collecting the bones of a small child, so she starts the fight with him. But it swiftly escapes, and she runs under Riley at this point, and he tries his best to talk to her and convince her to give the relationship between them a chance. He's all in at this point with her, but she explains that she went to the high school on top of a Hellmouth for 3 years, and he's got no idea what he's doing. So he'll more than likely just end up dead. But he tries to convince her that her past relationships weren't with him, and it'll be different because of that fact. But she's just like, it's not going to happen. She doesn't mention Angel or anything by name in this episode, but she does refer to, prior trying this before, fighting the demons, having a relationship. Always ends badly, of course. And so that's sowing the seeds for a later episode whenever Angel comes back for a guest appearance. Researching leads the gang to find that the demon needs the blood of a man, the bones of a child, and the word of Valios to perform a ritual called the Sacrifice of Free, which will destroy the world, open the Hellmouth. Everything goes to hell, essentially. Willow and Xander head off to the museum to see if they can find the word of Valios, in a book or whatever. They reckon they don't know exactly what this thing is at this point, but so they're heading off to see if they can find it. But Xander says they need to stop by his place to pick up some weapons, get changed into something that doesn't smell like pizza. His newest job is a pizza delivery boy or whatever. Back with Riley, he talks to his team, sends them out to kill the demon. They start using this device that's capable of tracking pheromone signatures, so they can't figure out where the demon actually is, but they can work out where it's at, try and triangulate where it may be. We cut over to Spike. He's in the basement, and he has this stake attached to the side of a coffee table, and he says his goodbyes, goodbye cruel world sort of deal. He's about to take himself out by falling from a chair onto the stake. Just then, Willow and Xander are walking, but Spike, of course, he's already in free fall at this point, and he destroys the table, doesn't stake himself, doesn't manage to do it. Xander tells Spike that he should have just asked him for help to stake him. I'm more than happy to do it for you. Willow grabs the stake away from Xander, and Spike appeals to her by pointing out that, am I not even scary anymore, sort of a deal. Willow argues that they know Spike now, and the Hawaiian shirt doesn't make you look threatening, and probably because I know you've got that chip in your head, make me less scared of you. But Willow also argues that they know Spike now. They're getting to know him as a person, and letting him take himself out wouldn't be right. So after getting the weapons, Xander tells Spike that if he does any more damage, he'll be sleeping in the garage. Willow, pitying him, insists that they take Spike along. Spike tries to get them to leave without him, of course, by promising, I'm not going to do anything to myself. I feel a lot better now. But Willow insists they come. Xander tells them to look on the bright side. If they can't find what they're looking for, then Spike can look forward to a massive apocalypse. And at this point, Spike perks up once again, a little bit more comedy out of him. What, really? You're not just saying that, are you? So, great character. So, we're out in patrol. For some reason, that didn't sound right the first time. Buffy runs into Riley again. Riley resumes their conversation. He tells Buffy that she needs to be more positive, to not look for the bad in the situation. A few people walk by. Riley says it makes sense for them to be out together because they're both fry cooks. He uses fry cooks instead of demon hunters to try and, of course, hide the conversation about what they really, really do. She points out to them there's a big difference between him. He's an amateur fry cook, air quotes, and she comes from a long line of fry cooks that tend to die before they reach the age of 25. Riley says that he knows the risks of what they do, And he still wants to take a chance on them because of the work that they do is rewarding and even fun. And at this point, of course, Buffy, super serious about slaying. And as soon as she hears the word fun, Buffy tells him the last person she knew that thought it was fun is now in a coma. Of course, referring to Faith. Riley says he knows part of her reluctance is because of someone in her past. We're getting the seeds for Angel, of course, here. And Buffy just tells him to leave her alone. So we cut over to the Sunnydale Museum. Willow and Xander, they're not completely unsuccessful in their search for the word of Valios. And Spike discourages them, talking about Xander's lack of direction in life and Willow's inability to get Oz to stay, as well as they're useless to Buffy. This is what Spike gets off on now, is like playing people off and their insecurities as well. So he's given that a bit in this episode. It's the only real damage he can do at this point. He's just like, you're Slayer groupies. That's all you are. You're useless to everybody. Buffy would be a much better Slayer without constantly having to watch out for you, the both of you. Willow and Xander protest, of course, and telling him that everything's untrue and claim that he's just saying stuff like that to make them mistake him. So there's a bit of truth in that as well. Spike argues that he simply doesn't want sympathy from two people he thinks are more useless than him, so he turns to walk away. Of course, he's got that grin on his face because he knows he's planted some seeds in there that's going to annoy them. We cut back over to Giles' apartment, and he comes across an illustration of the word of Valios in a book and sees that it's actually a talisman, and he realises that he actually already has it. So he goes searching through a trunk, grabs hold of it, and he's getting his coat now to head out of the apartment. Just then, the demons reveal themselves in his living room. They attack him. He tries his best to fight them off, but they very softly beat him down. The gang then find Giles bruised and battered, and he tells them that he actually bought the talisman at a sorcerer's estate sale and thought it was a knockoff, but it was actually the real thing. So he sends them off to Sunnydale High School after he informs them that the ritual is to open the Hellmouth. So they're going back to school here. And the schools, and of course, got destroyed at the end of season 3. And this is the first we've seen of it, really, in this series. And Buffy, Willow, Xander, and Spike head into the ruins. Buffy tells him to be careful. Spike says he'd be happy if they all just fell into the Hellmouth and got swallowed up, more or less. And Buffy asks why Spike's even there. So, Willow's explaining that he'll stake himself if they leave him alone. And Buffy asks why that's a problem. Then says, never mind, just they go on about their business at this point. And after walking through the charred and destroyed corridors of the high school and actually seeing piles of charred mare meat, as Xander calls it, from the giant snake that the mare turned into at the end of the last season, the gang make it to the crater that used to be the school library, and there's a big crack in the floor where 3 demons are performing the ritual. So Buffy, she says, week 1 here, what I need you guys to do is find the people that they're going to sacrifice and get them out. I'll take care of the demons. A fight breaks out. There's no sign of anybody there other than the 3 demons. Xander runs to grab the blood that's in a jar that the one demon got from this kid at the beginning of the episode. There's a bag of the child's bones, and the other demon has the talisman. So, Xander grabs the blood. Willow gets the bag of the bones. The first demon grabs the blood back from Xander, then throws himself into the Hellmouth. At this point, Xander works out that the demons themselves are the sacrifice for the rituals. They're going to chant the words and just jump in and open Hellmouth, sacrificing themselves. So, yeah, the stakes are fairly high at this point. Where are we at? Willow throws the bag of bones at Xander, who's just about to be attacked by a demon, so he throws it back at her. When a demon then comes after her, she throws the bag to Spike. He comes in on his downer. He is sitting on the steps in the library with a fight going on around him. A demon attacks Spike to get the bones. He punches Spike a few times, and after several hits that Spike has taken on, he realizes, he just loses his cool at this point and punches the demon as hard as they can. And for the first time since getting the chip, there's no pain in his head. And he realizes, okay, right, I can't kill humans or feed or anything like that, but I can hurt demons. So he goes full vamp at this point, gets into the fight. He very swiftly beats the demon senseless, caught up in the excitement of being able to fight. He forgets about the fact that they're trying to stop the sacrifices, if he even knew about it. And of course, Willow and Xander try to tell him not to throw the demon into the hole, which is he's just about to do, and he chucks the demon in, who's holding the bag of bones at this point. So Spike inadvertently fulfills the second part of the sacrifice. Yeah. Where are we at? Yeah, Spike, he's, what the hell's going on? I'm just trying to help you guys out. Every time one of the demons goes in with a sacrifice, the building begins to shake after the second one. It starts to shake a lot, and because debris starts falling, Buffy yells at them to get out because the building's going to come down around them. Spike gets knocked out by a beam that falls, whilst Willow and Xander grab hold of him and start to drag him out. The rest of the gang escape, and Riley shows up to help Buffy in the fight. The third demon grabs the talisman, crawls its way to the Hellmouth, and there's a bit of a fight there where they're trying to keep it from happening, but he manages to actually grab the talisman, crawl through the hole, and Buffy says, I'm going in after him. But Riley grabs a hold of her. He's got one of these cables on his belt. He's got the full gear on for being the commando at this point. And he attaches the cord to her waist. And he's like, you're coming back out. So she dives in after the demon. And he gives her enough slack for her to go down, grab hold of the demon, and pulls the two of them back out of the Hellmouth. The earthquake then stops. The Hellmouth is not going to open. They've succeeded. So, heading into the end of the episode, Riley and Buffy come across Xander, Willow and Spike in the school, of course. He tries to keep a secret at the end of the day by saying that he was walking by, heard noises, and they're not going to fall for it. He's in the full gear for being the commando, and they pretty much out his secret the way Buffy did at the beginning of the episode. Oh, you're clearly one of these commando guys. And he's like, no. And he tries to change the story that was playing paintball. So, they're not going to fall for it. And, his secret is out here. But he also does look at Spike and says, don't I know you? So, of course, Spike was caught by them guys and the chip put into his head. So, of course, Riley does know him. He just hasn't connected the dots at this point. But Spike tries to play it off by putting on the stupid little accent, saying that he's a friend of Xander's here. While they're walking out of the school, Xander asks Willow if it's weird being back. And she says, everything looks a little bit smaller. And, it's really weird because that's funny. I can remember. Oh, sorry about that there. Probably just blowing your speakers out. Many apologies. I can remember, and it's really weird whenever you get back to high school after a while. I was out a few years out of high school where I went to, and I went back in for something a couple of years after it. That really does look like a smaller place whenever you do go back to it. So, Next day, Buffy goes to Riley's dorm where he's now in a bit of a downer. He's upset that he's allowed everybody to find out who he was. Buffy tells him it's not the end of the world, and she plans to kiss on him at the end of the episode. And so the final moment in the episode, great little moment with Spike once more, like class character. They're back in Xander's basement. Willow and Xander are watching TV, and of course Spike comes in and turns it off. He's trying his hardest now that he knows he can hurt demons. All he wants to do at this point is to get out, search for vampires, kick some ass. And he's like, let's go find Buffy. She's the chosen one after all. We can go kill things. Come on, let's do it. Great little episode. More in the part of Spike than anybody else at this point. He is definitely one of these characters that I'm glad that the fans spoke up for the character of Spike in the way that they did at the very beginning, because if memory serves, when Spike and Drusilla originally came into Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they were going to be like the seasoned villains sort of thing, and the two of them were going to be taken out by the end of it. But they proved so popular, particularly Spike, that the fan base spoke, and he was kept on then as a recurring character more and more, and eventually he got the season 5 renewed for Angel as well. If memory serves, on that show, like we're only in the season 1 reviews in the podcast here at the moment, but if memory serves correctly, Angel was actually cancelled after the 4th season, and the only reason they actually got the 5th season was Spike, the idea of Spike coming on to the show. So yeah, one of these very, very strong characters that was never a main character, but had the presence to actually carry the show. That's a strange setup. He's like a side character that's more popular than the friggin' main characters at times. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Do a lot of good social media stuff for me. Share the show along, rate and review it and whatnot. If you want to get in contact with me directly, you can do that at Hellmouth Hotline at gmail.com. All the relevant links are in the show notes. So that's going to do it, guys. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're doing it safe, and I will talk to you in the next episode. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.